Good evening, everyone. We're going to be talking tonight about transforming and healing our world and our creations in the world. Now, it's very interesting because all of us as humans are creating all the time. And so we have to be careful what we're creating, whether we're creating something positive or creating something negative. Now, the interesting thing that Jesus taught was the way of righteousness or Christ consciousness, and that's the area we want to strive to get to. And freedom and empowerment is the gift to all of us from God. Loving thoughts and unconditional selfless service is the mystical which gives the power to the whole. And using Christ consciousness or love in all things leads to our ascension. Now, transforming and healing our creations in the world, the second center or creative center works on hormones with intent, thoughts, emotions, personality, and our personality leads to our personal reality, our beliefs and conceptions of life. Now, the creative center of the body is connected to every other center in the body. And our creative center is piezoelectric with small cells that create the primordial gametes and supportive cells. These reproductive cells actually require hormone supportive cells producing hormones, pheromones, out-signaling potential partners or people for making babies and such. Now, there are two types of the gametes in the human creative center, the sperm and the egg. Sperm is the male gamete, ovum is the female gamete. And this is a depiction of the male anatomy. And it's interesting because some teachers are teaching that the creative center is actually not in the second chakra, but in the first chakra, which I disagree with. I think the support and everything for this is in the ancient literature, showing that the actual creative center is in the second energy center or chakra. And this is a picture depicting the female system, which is really very similar to the male system, except instead of a prostate, you have the uterus. Instead of testes, you have the ovaries. And the cervix is actually very much anatomically like the glands of the penis, believe it or not, except that the female stimulation center is in the clitoris, which ends up being approximately in this area just above the vagina. Now, this is really interesting. This shows a diagram of where the sperm is created, and it almost looks like the ovary, except that it has additional little efferent tubules and ducts that transmit all of the sperm, and they're produced here. Then they move into what they call the vas deferens, the ductus deferens, and move up into and they mature in here about 16 days, and then they move out and go into a storage area where stimulation is created upon ejaculation that pushes them out, and the prostatic fluid's added, and it becomes a semen fluid, which has everything in it that is needed for creation. Now, here is a depiction of the ovaries. Very similar. Now, this depiction is not very good because it's actually showing the depiction of all the eggs from where they're little teeny things, and then they divide, and believe it or not, all the eggs are already present at birth of the baby. the baby girls. And they're all just sitting there waiting for the hormones to start going. And when you go through the teenage years, you know, and it's all actually dropped down into the 8, 9, 10-year-olds now are starting to ovulate. And that's due to stimulation of different hormones in the foods that we're getting that have been genetically modified. And it's interesting, they have a pair and they take turns producing eggs. And usually there are 2 or 3 eggs, or sometimes even more, released at one time. And they go up into the fallopian, they get drawn into the fallopian tubes, and usually only one side goes each month. But it's interesting because sometimes 3 or 4 are all fertilized. They come down, they attach into the uterus, but several of them can stop working, and therefore you don't have twins, triplets, or quadruplets. Now, modern stimulation produces even more eggs. And a lot of times they'll use 8 eggs when they're doing in vitro fertilization and stimulate the reproductive process with all of them. And the reason I'm describing this is it's a part of creation. Now, the ovaries are quite fascinating because they're always in this process from the time the girls go through maturation process and they start ovulating. And they'll ovulate usually until the woman's about 52 years old. Now, I had a lady that came to me who had a dream that she was supposed to have a 13th child. She'd already had 12, and she was 58 years old. And I tuned into her energy, and I got really strong that if I chelated her, removing the toxins and chemicals and heavy metals out of her body, and we stimulated her ovaries to produce again, that she would have her 13th child. And sure enough, after 3 months of chelating once a week, so 12 chelations, she actually came in and she says, I think I'm pregnant. So we did a pregnancy test, and sure enough, she was. And she ended up having her 13th child at the age of 59. Now, I actually delivered, the oldest woman I delivered was a 64-year-old in Missouri. And it was, you know, a surprise for both her and her husband. They were both in their 60s. But these things happen. And this creative center is amazing because not only do you produce hormones in this area, but the uterus can actually create energy, and the energy is created not just from the uterus but the entire organism. That's why I showed all this, is there's energy being produced in all of this area, down in this area, and the Kundalini gets going when we get aroused or excited. And we can create things. Instead of creating other humans, we can actually take that energy and create matter, create creations of in not only spiritual, astral, emotional areas, but in physical areas. So it's a very powerful creative area of the body. And when we combine the second chakra with the love of our heart, our creations are filled with love. Now, when I was an obstetrician gynecologist, we started teaching women to send love to their uterus even before they get pregnant, and also make sure their partner was sending love to her uterus, to the eggs, and also sending it to his testes to create a perfect baby. And, you know, we were just experimenting, and we would have them play higher vibrating music. We would have them speak kindly to each other and love each other and want to have a perfect baby, and so have them send love to their sexual organs. And as we did this, every woman that I did the prenatal with, that I taught them to do this, they all had perfect babies. Even some had been tested that they were genetically abnormal, and they came out absolutely perfect. And when we tested their DNA, because they had tested in utero early on in the pregnancy that there was a defect, all of them ended up having perfect DNA. This was back in the 80s, and through the early 90s I was doing this, and I stopped practicing obstetrics in the 90s. Now this is a very busy picture, and it looks at all the different chakras or energy centers of the body, and it shows the different crystals or stones or different things used in these areas. And it's very interesting as you look at the color. It's orange is the color, and even the Sanskrit shows an orange color. And they also can be blue-green and light brown, but most of the time this energy center is orange. And you know, as I was learning about the 24-strand DNA, the lady that made the picture, she changed it to peach color, which was an unusual color. And all the intuitives I showed this new picture to, they went, oh, this is wrong. This is not the right energy. And so I went back to the original picture that she made, because it was producing the most creative energy. So when you get a picture of Zaphkiel, who is the archangel of the orange flame of creation and ecstasy, you're actually getting the correct color when I send you the picture. So the stones are amber, carnelian, fluorite, tiger iron, tiger's eye, turquoise, and vanadinite. That's an interesting name. And these stones help you in creating what you desire. So getting those stones helps your creative energy and your creative center to create what you desire. So putting these around with you would be very good. Now here's a depiction of all the creative centers, and this is, you know, from the older lessons, and it shows the first chakra is the root or base chakra, and the color is red, and it's mainly for your survival and grounding. Now, one thing that we've been taught is that God gives us everything we need. And so God takes care of our survival and grounding. Man is the one who disrupts this. And we've had a huge disruption in this, in our root chakra, because of what humanity is doing currently. And people have been losing that survival and grounding energy, and they've been committing suicide because they're not connected to the earth, and they're having all of their energy taken from them, which is awful. And the next one up is the second energy center, and we've been misusing this so bad that a lot of people are losing their capability to even create little humans, because they get STDs, and the STDs make them infertile. And the current viral condition that we're getting is making a lot of women and men infertile. And the GMO foods are making us infertile, affecting our creative center. So there's a lot of reasons that we need to clean up our bodies and clean up our nutrition so that we're not eating things that actually take away from our creative energy. Because when you take it away from the physical creative energy, it's also diminishing your ability to create in other ways. Now, the third chakra is your power center, and it's your emotional center. And when we're creating something, when we use our grounding center and our emotional center with love, and bliss and happiness, those kind of things add to what we are creating. So these centers are very basic centers that actually commingle a lot with each other. And in order to bring them to the highest creation, we add the love from our hearts, from the fourth center. So once we get that creation up into the love, we're actually creating very good things for humanity. And so it's very important we use all these chakras when we are creating. Now, the other thing that's really interesting is when we speak of what we are creating. They actually found that if you tell somebody what you're creating, it even enforces it even more. And when you tell yourself what you're creating, it enforces it and starts it to create. And then as you visualize your creations, you can conceive them and draw them and write them down and diagram them and decide what you're creating. And then you go up into the cerebral energy center, and that gives you inspiration for all the parts of the creation you need. So in order to create things, we are using all of our chakras within our body. Now you can also go up into your 8th chakra, down into the chakras down below, lower of your body, to create things. And as you add all these energies, you can even create more. Now this talk is about transforming and healing your creation. Sometimes we have not taken love and added that to our creation. What does that mean? When we're not creating with love, there's less perfection in the creations. Sometimes our plan is to just make money from whatever we're making, for whatever reason. And so we don't have that love added in there, or we haven't had the inspiration, or we haven't had the clear vision. And it's important for us to use all the energy centers for our creative energy. So how do we heal the creations we've made that we haven't done these other things with? Well, I'm here to tell you, you can recreate them, go back into the past when you created them, and start adding the love. Or if you didn't add the power center to it, you can add bliss and happiness and other emotions that are very good. A lot of people create stuff out of a need or a want, which is actually a lack. And we as humans, we need to create things because of our love and our desire to be happy, higher emotions. So the emotional center is very important, and using our sexual chakra appropriately and not having, avarice or lust or those kind of things will help a lot. So if you were creating something because you wanted to get rich and get a lot of women, you can go back into your past and recreate that instead with love and a desire to help and honor humanity. And you can change your timeline so you can actually heal what you've already created and heal it to make it even better. And you can conceive it, have a clearer vision, and speak about it more clearly, and inspire it, and bring it to God. And God will help us heal our creations that we've already made, and help us with our creations we're doing currently. So, this is kind of fascinating. Now, transforming and healing our creations in the world. Now, yoga, especially Kundalini yoga, when you're doing it in the proper way, will add additional energy. Now, I found that using the Kundalini energy is very powerful, and it is stored, believe it or not, down in the root chakras where it begins. And we go down into the earth. That's why it's important to have a good connection to the earth, because you're actually using the magma and the crystalline energy of the earth to create. It's a very powerful energy that will come up and begin in the root chakra, and then we move it up into our pelvic or sacral plexus area to begin the creative juices flowing and everything beginning. And then we move it up and bring happiness and joy and things that will help humanity. Now I'm going to go back to this other one, because as you look at this, down here in our survival and grounding, the first thing you need to look at is this going to help humanity be more happy, more healthy, have better homes, better comfort, and as you look at these things for survival and grounding, it's interesting that as you want to help humanity, then you bring it up and bring the creative energy in, then you bring in the happiness and all the other good emotions, you bring in the love, you bring in the healthy, clear communication, you bring in the vision of what you're creating, and get the inspiration from God. And as you use all of these centers, you actually can create even more magnificent things. And when you add the Kundalini, that gives you the drive and the vision to complete them. So the Kundalini helps spiral the energy on up to the other energy centers, and it brings you bliss when it hits up into your 8th chakra. And you can store the energy in your 8th chakra. I've learned that a long time ago, and it purifies it, and you can bring it back down as needed to complete your creations. Now, meditation is very important when you're meditating, when you're creating, because as you meditate and those chakras are stirring that creative energy, you'll actually see it happening. You'll get diagrams, you'll get graphics, you'll get pictures, you'll get information. As the plasma is spinning around, plasma is information with energy. And if you can't tell what it is, sometimes it's just spinning lights. And you ask them to give you a description, and they will actually appear as diagrams or pictures or words to assist you in your creative energy. So meditation with focused breathing, with the muscle-assisted locks, brings that energy even further into your body. Now, doing detoxes and cleansings removes negative energies that have entered your body, such as toxins, heavy metals, chemicals, radiation. And so detoxing and cleansing and actually manifesting and meditating to cleanse your body is very effective. And the Kundalini can burn toxins out of your body. Taking herbal remedies that strengthen the creative organs. Very interesting stuff, and I'll talk about a couple of these things. But this also helps you with your creative ability, because as you strengthen the creative organs, make yourself more fertile, more creative, it actually makes you create higher vibrations. Now, using crystals and locating crystals near your body. The crystals and stones we talked about, amber, carnelian, fluorite, tiger iron, tiger's eye, turquoise, and vanadinite. Very powerful stones. And using these others for your other chakras. Now, I've done actual healings with crystals and the crystal energy. And as I set them around the body, I align them to the chakras, because disease is caused by a misalignment of energy. So the chakras don't work well and cause disease, dis-ease. And so by using crystals on each energy center, you can realign them. The first time St. Germain showed me how to do this, we took a little gal, 19 years old. She was literally dying from lupus. Her kidneys were almost dead, and here she was, only 19 years old, a very beautiful girl, but she was very sick. And we put the crystals on each of her energy centers and around her body. And immediately she had a raise in her temperature to 106 degrees. Back then we had the ear thermometers, and I checked because she was very hot. She was at 106 degrees. And St. Germain said, don't worry, she's going to be fine. We needed to raise her energy level to burn out the viruses, because lupus is caused by 4 different viruses that get in the body and cause the lupus, and they eventually kill the body through killing the kidneys and the adrenal glands, the pancreas, the liver, and it's very harsh. And at the end of 35 minutes being in this, with the crystals all around her, the fever went away, and she started just sweating profusely. And St. Germain said, don't worry, she's healed. She's just releasing all the toxins. And it was quite fascinating. When we had her lay there another 25, 30 minutes, so about an hour and 10 minutes, she was on the massage table with all the crystals. We started removing the crystals and had her get off the table, and her energy level was normal. And we had her go get a test for the lupus, and believe it or not, her ANA went to normal, and everything, all the parameters in her body went to normal. Her kidneys were healed. She had some problems with her liver. Her liver was healed. It was the most amazing thing. And so I learned a lot about the creative energy in that day by using the crystals, and we can do this with ourselves. So, creating sacred space with statues, pictures of ascended masters. As we go into our creative space, we see the things that remind us of who actually is giving us energy, giving us our creative abilities. All of the ascended beings and ascended masters, they're the ones we need to use, because a lot of times our energy is not as perfected. And so as we use the masters to create things and to assist us, they have already perfected themselves, and they can add their perfected energy to our creations and even protect our creations and heal our creations for us. And so we need to ask them and create that sacred space and use it. Now, I know these are very common scenarios, and we've talked about these things before, and we've used it with the vision center, the hearing center, the speaking center, but this applies to all of our energy centers, but in a little different way. Now, singing, toning, and chanting, as you add the energy of sound, you can change your creations to be what you truly desire and add momentum, add energy, add holiness, especially as you're singing holy toning, holy songs, things that generate great energy. You actually can heal your creations in the world. So a lot of times we go in and we create things for the wrong reasons. And we can correct that, bringing in the right reasons, the right energies, and it actually will change and shift and heal our creations. Even our children. You know, a couple of my kids were having severe problems. And I was learning all this during that time. And so I started praying and meditating over these two boys. And I was actually able to shift my oldest son's energy, especially by getting him away from the influence he was getting in the city we were living in. I got him to go to Knoxville, Tennessee, where the national laboratories are located there, and got him a job there as an intern working with these magnificent scientists who were creating many amazing things. And it inspired him, and it was through my desire to help my son, who was a creation of mine, more or less. You know, our kids are something that we do create physically, although their soul is not created by us. But they come in and they can have problems. And so healing my son was of vital importance, and I had prayed very hard what I should do, and I was told, if you'll send him to the National Laboratories at Knoxville, Tennessee, it's called Oak Ridge National Laboratories. It's where all the most brilliant scientists go and they work together to create stuff. That's where Einstein created the atomic bomb. It wasn't exactly the best creation, but there was very beautiful things that are coming out of there also, besides weapons. So, you know, we as humans, we create some crazy stuff. But singing, toning, and chanting, I learned how to tone at that time, and it actually really helped to shift the energy even in my son. So we can use these kind of things to transform and heal our creations in the world, and it actually protects them too. Oh, my clicker isn't clicking, so let's see if, there we go. So as we bring the love of God into our creative center, everything we create changes. Now, as I've been doing the breathing that I taught, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and bringing God's love in, it's interesting how that has shifted my consciousness. And knowing God is in charge and God's love is actively taking care of us here on the earth, it changes our thoughts, it changes our creations in the world, and it changes us to become better people. And we begin to create more loving and beautiful creations which will benefit all of humanity. Now, when you do this, believe it or not, you also become more prosperous, more abundant, because the energy of creation creates the flow of energy. Money is just energy. And as you make energy flow, more flows not only away from you, but back to you. And so as we create, we become richer, not only spiritually, but physically, mentally, emotionally. And so it's very important to create everything with love and bringing beauty into the world. So, this is another slide that I've used quite a bit, and I keep being told by St. Germain, keep using some of these slides because people need to look at each aspect of themselves and learn. So at the end of each meditation, we need to invoke the highest and greatest possibilities to be created in the void. So at the end of your meditation, you say in your mind, I'm going to the void and I'm going to create the highest and greatest potentialities. Now, what does this mean? This means that in the void is where God created the universe. We can go into the void and create with God what we desire. And we can ask the great divine architect or the creative energy of God that God created to create the universe to assist us with this and create the highest and greatest possibilities for our own healing, for our creations, for our voice, for our vision, for every aspect of our body. And as we do this and bring God's love in, and then at the end of the meditation we ask that all of these possibilities, the best ones, come forth and integrate into our energy centers. And believe you me, this works. It's helped me tremendously to improve my energy, to improve my thoughts, to improve my speech, to improve my hearing, my vision, my thinking. You know, every aspect of my body has been improved by doing this. So we'll do a little bit of that here in just a minute. So just know that we can help our organs, our glands, our bones, our ligaments, tendons, systems, our total body health to reach new levels. Now, it's very subtle, but each time you do it, it improves things. It brings better energies to you, and you actually are evolving and creating a better life and a better physical body for yourself. And better emotions. All the centers are helped by doing this. So, here's another slide that I'll repeat. Always, at the end of your meditation, send forth gratitude. So you send this, for all of this, I send forth the deepest gratitude. So be it, so it is. I am that I am. Now, when you're saying, I am that I am, that is what the definition of God is. I am. You know, when Moses asked the burning bush, who are you? What's your name? He heard, I am that I am. And that means we are who we are too, and we were created by the I am that I am. And so as we state, I am that I am, you're acknowledging God's love in creating you. So gratitude is the ultimate energy of receivership. So as we're grateful, we actually form another torus. Our auric field creates a torus of energy around us. When we go into fear, that torus contracts. When we go into anxiety, the torus contracts. When we go into any kind of negative energy, it actually lowers our vibration and the energetic field changes. And so as we use gratitude, it expands and makes another torus inside the torus that's already outside our body and increases our receivership of energy, love, devotion, everything. So, now is the present moment when we need to do things. So don't put things off. Don't just be listening to what I'm saying. I want you to practice these things. Now, I don't want you feeling overwhelmed. That's why we have the videos. You know, you can't do everything. You know, I've had people complaining, I can only do like one thing at a time. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong as long as you're doing something to move your life forward. I recommend doing at least 2 things and do them consistently. The reason we have a 12-week mentoring, it takes 6 weeks to change your cells. 6 weeks. So we can change 2 major things in 12 weeks. And so just work on doing the 24-strand DNA manifestation and doing the decrees, because that will produce perfected DNA in your body, and you'll be able to have protection from all the energies that are going on outside of you and protect what you're creating within you. So now's the present time. It's time to love yourself. Now is the time to create perfection and love within yourself. Heal your auric fields, energy bodies, and physical body. Mental thought creates intent. So our intent, what we think about, we become. Your thought produces the creation, and when you add the energy and action and emotion, causes a cause and an effect and a construct, and it creates our personality, which creates our personal reality. And then we get our collective reality, our world reality, and our universal affecting reality. Now, everything we do affects the whole. So as we become better, the world becomes better. As I create more loving things, the world receives more loving things. So just know we can change the world by changing ourselves. And as more of us do this, there's even more energy, so it'll be faster. So that's why we're teaching these things. So in summary, I start today creating new possibilities for healing my body. And, the application of these teachings and techniques, we've talked about this. Spend each day doing meditation, visualizing, creating new energies in your energy centers. Clear negative thoughts each day as needed. You go into a negative thought, don't stay in that thought, because it creates more and more memory in your cells and in your brain. You got to get out of those negative thoughts and change them, shift them to the opposite. And if you can't figure out what the opposite is, change it to love. And have the intent to love your life and all of humanity and the earth, which will bring more loving light, thoughts, sounds, visions, and creations, and a more love-filled life. Now, next week we're going to be talking about transforming and healing. Oh, I messed up. It's different than that. This is this week's. I focus my mind and creative center on Christ consciousness, compassion, joy, righteousness, and love for all creation. Now, we'll look at the questions and answer your questions now. And if you have a question, type it up and send it as we go through the questions. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so is there an oral chelation therapy for cleansing? Yes, I carry Keel Detox. It's a chelator that detoxes you. And we also carry other types of chelators. The CLNZ and the Bind are good chelators. The G-Cell has glutathione that accelerates the liver's ability to detox the body. So we have a lot of good oral chelators. When I had cancer, I did IV chelation, which was very cumbersome because it took an hour to 2 hours to run those fluids through. If they're doing it right, it should take 2 hours, because it does affect the kidneys and it can clog up the kidneys with toxins. And so it does take a lot of time. But the oral chelators, you take them at night, and they do make you tired so you sleep better, but it removes the toxins as you're sleeping. And I love oral chelators. Now, maybe this is the same question as above, but can you recommend a cleansing regime? The most important thing is don't let toxins enter in. So eat a clean diet. drink good purified water, bathe in good purified water. You know, I became a rep for a company called EcoSmart that has systems that not only detox the water, take the chemicals out, but it adds oxygen to the water and ozone. So it gets rid of all the bad stuff and puts in just good stuff. Increased oxygen actually helps our brains work better. It helps your body to stay more alkaline. You know, the things they've mandated in this pandemic have been the exact opposite that we need to detox. Because as you cover your face, you're getting less oxygen, and as you get away from other humans and interaction with them with social distancing, you're not associating with other people and, you know, gathering in groups and discussing this stuff. That's why we've had to go to videos. We need to discuss this stuff as humans, and it actually helps us create a better world. And all of these rules and devices have actually not helped reduce the problem with the epidemic, but it actually caused more problems. And if you don't believe that, ask a doctor who has a bit of sense. So, does foot bath therapy work that you see in clinics here in town? Okay, you know, when I first learned about the foot detox and we bought a machine, I had my doubts. And all the people that came in had their doubts. And so this guy came in, he says, okay, I want you to do both, me and my wife, and if the same stuff comes out of us, I'm going to believe that it's just a bunch of hooey. So I hooked them both up to the detox baths, and at the end of the bath, his showed that it was pulling a lot of smoke inhalation products because it was just black. The wife's was more green and yellow. His was literally full of black, and I said to him, "Are you a smoker?" He says, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, it's, you know, not only the smell of your breath, but all the toxins that came out of you. There's a lot of tar in there." And he looked at me and he looked over at his wife's and he says, "Why doesn't hers have the same thing?" I said, "She's probably not a smoker." And his wife said to him, "See, I told you." So, you know, it's very fascinating as we go through this. I'm a big doubter until I test things. And so I test everything. And believe it or not, Vicki has had a lot of liver toxicity her whole life that I've known her. And she starts going yellow after about a week of not detoxing. And so we'll hook her up to the foot bath, and it'll pull a bunch of the yellow and fungus and stuff out of her body, and her feet will brighten up and become pink again. And so I know these things work, and they are good. Just make sure you're cleaning the arrays afterward. They're the little thing you put down into the water. Make sure you clean them with there's a clear stuff that I use to clean them with, and make sure they're cleaned up good, because you can actually bring toxins back in if you don't clean them off good. And make sure you're using good water, good purified water. And that's why I put one of those EcoSmart systems on my house, the whole house. You can drink water out of any tap because it's all purified. It's all good water. Even showering, it's good water. Because believe it or not, if you're showering in the city water, you're getting fluoride and chlorine all over your body, and it absorbs into your body. So we have to be careful what we're doing. What herbs do you recommend to strengthen creation? I'm glad you asked that. The main herbs that are helpful is detoxing herbs, and then the herbs that strengthen our creative center is ashwagandha, and another one is astaxanthin. Pigmented oils are very good. You know, proanthocyanidins, vitamin C with the bioflavonoids. You want to get a 50-50 mixture, so 500 milligrams of the vitamin C, 500 milligrams of the bioflavonoids. Zinc is very powerful for strengthening your creative organs. Believe it or not, men use 4 times the amount of women in the creation of sperm. And women, they've already produced all the eggs they're going to do, so they don't need as much zinc as men. But men need a ton of zinc. Now, if you're taking zinc, it lowers your copper. So I recommend to people to take OptiZinc with the micrograms of copper. You need 30 milligrams of copper a day for a man, and 30 micrograms of copper a day to balance out. Because if you take the zinc by itself without the copper, you eventually leach out all the copper out of your body. All the zinc removes the copper. So those are very good things. Now, when you go through menopause, when men they don't go through andropause, they just kind of less and less testosterone as they age. Taking supplements that augment your hormones actually helps your creative centers. Now, I'm not talking about stuff that creates, turgidity in the penis or that's for sexual satisfaction. The main things you want to take are things that help, and then the other stuff comes along with it. But taking, for instance, things that help your estrogens and progesterones in women are very vital for your creative energy and for your vitality and energy. And in men, things that help, tribulus is good in men and women. It makes you produce more hormones. And in women, it makes you produce more estrogen, progesterone, and a little bit more testosterone. So tribulus is good for men and women. And there's other herbs that are very good. I like beta-sitosterol that actually occurs naturally in pumpkin seed oil. And so pumpkin seed oil is good for men and women. Plus, pumpkin seed oil, the bladder is down there near the creative center, and it strengthens the bladder and the tissues around the bladder. So beta-sitosterol is a good supplement, but you can get that out of pumpkin seed oil. So, and it gives your skin a glow. Pumpkin seed oil is very vital for the creative center. And it's anti-parasitic, so just know that it's a very good oil. Taking the fish oils is also very good because it improves the circulation, not only to the brain, and fish oils are very vital for the brain, but it improves the circulation throughout the body, and it keeps you from having blood clots. Last night, my ex-wife was having a stroke, and so she didn't want to go to the hospital and have whatever was done to them, so I was able to get her to start on fish oil and vitamin E, which not only improves your circulation, but it keeps you from producing blood clots. And there's a lot of people having problems with this virus with blood clots, so taking fish oil and vitamin E will help with the circulation to your lungs and all over, because we're having a lot of people have problems with blood clots in their lungs. So I hope that answers your questions, and let's see if we had any more. Okay. Can you do another toning today for us? Yes, I can. And I love charcoal. At night, if you take charcoal, it will actually bind toxins in your body. But I don't like you taking it during the day because you don't want it to bind your good stuff you're trying to, assimilate into your body and everything. So only take charcoal late at night or in the middle of the night to bind toxins and pull them out. Okay, so let's do some toning and then we'll give a blessing. So let's go. Now this will be specific for creating beautiful, loving energy and creations. And we're going to add all the tones. I always start with the heart because it's important to augment the heart. Now we're going to go into the higher areas. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, and by powers invested in me by the great divine director, we give you each a blessing. We bless you that you will be thinking about what you are creating in your life and in our world. We bless you that your creations will be created with the love of God out of your heart for the betterment of the planet. And you will receive money and energy from God by creating the beauty of God in the world. We bless each of you that your bodies will become stronger, healthier, more resilient, that your organs and systems and glands will function perfectly in this physical body. We bless you that your creative center will work perfectly to create what you desire with the love of God, that all of your creations will be perfected and your past creations can be taken and reformatted and brought into the love of God to make better creations, more loving creations, more helpful creations that will help all of humanity. We bless each and every one of you that your ideas will be supplemented through your meditations and through your visions and dreams. And through your going to the void, you can bring the creative energy and possibilities back to every energy center in your body, creating more divine divinity in your system and body, so that your energy centers are filled with the energies of God and filled with the creative energy of God, so that you become divine creators. We bless you that you will be happy, full of hope, full of faith, and full of love. That God's love will enter into every energy center in your body, and you will create as God created, with love, perfected creations that are seen in our universe. That you too will participate in improving the life of every human being on this planet and out in the universe through your creations. We thank you for who you are and that you're holding the light of God and the space of God. Many of us were sent here just to hold the perfection of God's energy in this environment of fear and anxiety. And we are here to assist all the humans to bring them back to God and evolve through creating perfected DNA, creating a safe environment, creating beautiful, loving creations, creating better emotions, creating more love, creating a voice that creates more enjoyment in our lives and greater teachings that will reach out to the masses and create the vision and the mind of God and return us to the ecstasy and love of God. We love each and every one of you. The ascended beings are feeling us with their thoughts and their emotions and their love. And know that God is with you. So be it. So it is. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am. And in the name of all the ascended masters, and especially in the name of Jesus Christ, Jesus ben Joseph, Yeshua ben Joseph, we love you. So be it. So it is. God bless each and every one of you. Next week we'll be talking, got to go the right way. May 6th, transforming and healing our connection to the earth. So we're going to just continue on. God bless you. I love you, and we'll see you next week.